let's talk about valves on bike inner tubes. Now that, which we're all used to, is a Schrader valve like we have on the car. This is on my pickup truck. You can take the valve core out. Done that in the Middle East when needed to inflate tyres rapidly or deflate tyres rapidly. This has been over part of the Sahara, no problem at all. I run those at 60 psi. This is also a Schrader valve. This is my Eastali little electric commuter bike. Now when we had our old 26-inch mountain bikes, these were the valves that they came fitted with. They just worked excellently, and they're quite a large diameter valve, so you can really easily take the valve core out and you can fit it with sealant if you want. And we always run with sealant here. We're in the Chiltern Hills. There's often a lot of thorns that we're riding over, and it makes a big difference. And I don't want to convert any of the bikes, frankly, to tubeless. Given our use of the bikes, I just don't think it will really help. It'll be a load of faff for nothing. Now we have changed our bikes at some point, and we've moved from 26-inch to 27.5-inch, which is, for what we use them for, is quite a good compromise. But now these 27.5-inch wheels, and I guess it's the same for 29-inch, have moved to these I think they're Presta valves. So these are the I guess they're the ones that come on sort of road bikes. Now this is a new inner tube here, and so you've got this very sort of weak copper, I guess it's copper, I'm not sure, little threaded piece here, and then you can undo that, and then yeah, this has got sealant in. Now some like this, you can actually unscrew the valve body to take it out, which means that if you're going to get sealant in, that's how you're going to do it. But not a lot of these inner tubes don't have that, which means you're not going to be able to run sealant in them. However, this demonstrates the problem, and I've had to replace the inner tubes now twice in the last couple of rides on Sally's bike, because we found that it needed some air, and then this is the valve core from Presta, and this was completely gunged up, and you just couldn't get it undone again, because undoubtedly that's due to the sealant. I've never had a problem with sealant on Schrader valves. Also, I've had a problem, it's very difficult, I find, pumping these up and being able to put, you have to be so careful pumping them up, or you end up bending this weak little sort of threaded core here, and then then the whole thing, you can't undo it, or it's you struggle undoing it or doing it up. So it's, maybe this is fine for road bikes, but for mountain bikes, where they're going to get abused, they're going to get in really hard terrain and mud and things like that, I'm not happy with those. So I went down the bike shop in our local one. It's a proper expert bike shop. They do a lot of road bikes, that sort of thing. And so the shop owner said, look, we get quite a lot of complaints about these type of valves. People generally aren't happy with them. We get more complaints about these than we do with Schrader valves. He said, if you want to switch to Schrader valves, just drill the hole out to 7mm. And then you can swap over. So I've got a couple of replacement tubes, and before we start on my bike, which is arguably the more expensive bike, let's have a go on Sally's cheap Voodoo Halford's bike, because I'm sort of less worried about if I damage the rims and have to replace them. So we'll start with the front because it's easier. Normally I only just replaced that inner tube yesterday, and it's already going down. I don't know if that's the valve, but I just hate these. So yeah, we'll let's take that one apart. Okay. See, actually, this one, I think this inner tube that I put in yesterday, I've used before. Look, the whole stem is bent there. Right, so there's no sealant in this one. It took me quite a while to get used to these modern rims, actually being able to get the tyres off without using tyre levers. And even even using tie levers I was struggling before. So you really have to make use of, you have to sort of separate them from the bead and then make use of the sort of the channel in the middle to get a bit of space. Once you can do that, it seems to work all right. Okay, that's the inner tube out. Yeah, we were at a campsite a few weeks ago. I couldn't put any air into the tyre. I couldn't get this undone. In the end, the only way even to change the inner tube was to get a pair of pliers and effectively crush and cut this off so I could then discard it. So that's a bit annoying. Right. So there's the hole. We've got to check that 7mm is right. So here's the replacement tube. So this is one thing I did check with the shop. I said, can you actually get Schrader valve tubes easily for 27.5? Because I don't want to drill holes in this and then find, oh no, it's only for 26s. But he said, no problem getting these. And I was down at Halfords as well today, and I could see they stocked them as well. Look at that. That's so. You just compare. So yeah, it's a rather more substantial piece of kit there, as you would expect, given that this is the same as you would use on things like my pickup truck, 60 psi, at lorries, I don't know, 80 plus psi, and these vehicles, you know, have a much more heavy-duty, difficult life and do a lot more miles than a bike. Actually, critically, let's just check. He said 7mm. 5, 6, 7. It's actually slightly higher than, slightly more than 7mm. It's actually more like 8. Right, I have some drills. I don't have a 7 in there, but I have one elsewhere. I'm not going to use the big Mosquito power drill. I don't want something with loads of torque, so I've got a cheap electric drill here. So this has a lot less torque, so less chance of trashing anything. Right, 8's the next one, so which I think is the right size. Yeah, that's actually 8. Now I'm just going to push really gently because I don't want this snatching, and because these are aluminium, the tendency will be for this to try and catch and then make a mess. So I've put the clutch on this fairly low, so it'll do that rather than just trashing this. So I've managed to drill through the first layer. So you've got 2 layers of aluminium here. There you go, you can hear it as it's starting to go through, it's starting to catch, and so the clutch is preventing it making a real mess of the aluminium. Right, so let's try that for size. I'll deburr the hole in a bit. Oh yes, that's more like it. Look at that. Cool. So I'll get the burrs of metal out of this, and to do that, what I typically do is just use a larger drill and just do it by hand. So just very gently, so just to chamfer the edge there. I know you can get proper deburring tools to do this, but a larger drill should be fine. Yeah, that's pretty much it. On this side we're okay because we've got this this plastic liner, so there's no sharp edges there. What I'll do is I'll put a bit of air in here just to give it some shape. I'll use a £5 Halfords pump that I bought for Sally's folding bike. Yeah, so that seems to work quite well. I'm very pleased with that. That's nice. Right, what I'll do before we do anything else, I'm going to put some sealant in. Conveniently, the tube of slime comes with this cap, which has a valve core removing tool in it. Actually, I might need to use a proper valve core removing tool because this one's there's a more substantial metal one. One valve core. So I quite like this slime stuff. The fact that it's day glue is also very useful because typically we'll get a puncture, it'll start to go down a bit. If you spin the tyre and put a bit more air in, it'll usually hold up for the rest of the ride. But when I get a chance, I'll then go and repair it with a patch. And the beauty is that you can immediately see where the puncture was because there's a green dot. Slap a whole load of this in. And this is a lot easier to do with this big valve. See, that goes in so easily compared with trying to get this through a Presta valve. Okay, put the valve core back in. Right, that's the right way up. Just screw it back in with the valve core tool. Really put some air into this. Again, I'll just use the cheap Halfords pump. I mean, I've got air in the workshop, high pressure air, but actually I quite like to use the tools that I've got available that I'll have with the bike just to make sure they work. It's quite a narrow diameter tube for this. This is absolutely the maximum size of tyre that the tube supports, so I'll probably look at getting some tubes that are a bit bigger, a bit thicker, because obviously as I do this up I suspect it's just stretching the wall of the tube, which is going to make it more vulnerable to punctures. Now with the Presta valve I'd be being very careful doing this because I'd have ended up damaging the valve. But I can be brutal with this because it's a truck valve. Oh yeah, let's tested this cheapo pump as well. Yeah, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Yeah, it wasn't a problem at all doing it. Yeah, so we'll see how this works now I'm actually riding it. But at least I know that's... I'll do the front one and the back one in a minute, because that was a success. Excellent.